Hi, I'm Jessica. I am Jessica Wong, 33rd District PTA Reflections Chair. This is my second year in the role. So let's hope I know what I'm doing. There was a little learning curve last year, but I think we got everything squared away. I am sort of both an expert in the arts education area and in spreadsheets. So that's how I sort of ended up in this role. You can see our lovely theme for the year, accepting imperfection. So I know you all have your program started at unit and the councils are eagerly waiting for the next wave, which should start in November. So I'm just going to talk to everybody about all of those things. So I just always include the reflections promise. I'm just going to read one side of the screen. To help all students explore their own thoughts, feelings, and ideas, as well as develop artistic literacy, increase confidence, and find a love for learning that will help them become more successful in school and life. So that is why we are all here doing what we do for these kids. Contact information and resources. My email is at the top. That is how you can always get a hold of me. The protocol for questions is that if you're at a school unit, usually you would ask your council reflections chair. Council reflections chair, then turn around and ask me, district reflections chair. And then if I have questions, I go up to California State, and then they would go up to national. Typically, California State PTA reflections have all the answers that I require. At the very bottom, you will see the website address. And maybe we can lift these and put them in the chat for people. You do need to create a user login and password for leaders.capta.org, but this is the warehouse of information. All of CAPTA's videos, so Eric Thompson's videos on spreadsheets, all his slides are housed here. They can be super helpful, especially for a unit chair when they're starting to work through their spreadsheet and like what all of these cells mean and stuff like that. So the first thing I want to conquer is changes to the program in 2024-25. There's a new division title. So the divisions are the grade levels that we're dealing with. So primary is TK through 2, intermediate is grades 3 through 5, middle school, and then high school. We also used to have a division called Special Artists that is now called Accessible Arts Division. So that's really just a name change. There have not been changes rule-wise beyond that. This is typically for kids who have 504s and IEPs. They can self-identify into this. We don't do any checking because that's not really any of our business. But yeah, so that's accessible arts. Next, guidelines were clarified to explain that while permitted in certain categories, copyrighted material in an entry must be incidental or as a smaller element of the whole. So that means like in a picture or a photo, somebody can be holding a Coke can, but that's not the point of your art piece. And then if you're doing background music for a film or music or film or dance, that's what I'm trying to get out of my mouth. That needs to be cited in their entry form, whether that's digital or handwritten. Then we go on to use of technology. Guidelines were clarified to emphasize that digital technology may not provide the primary design or concept of an entry, and to indicate that entrants must provide a description of how they've used the stuff. So this is where you guys need to really look at the artist statement. If you have, say, a digital film, they need to tell you what software they've used to create the images, the renderings, and what they've used to produce this film. There's several out there. This did come up last year, so we are kind of keeping a close eye on that as we move forward. And we'll address that a little bit more when I get further into guidelines. Visual art category specific guidelines now specify digital art and graphics rather than computer generated images. Now, of course, a kid can draw on their iPad or whatever device they have. That's still their original art created digitally, but you may not pull down from the internet free images and then turn them into a film. Does that make sense? If you have questions about that, please let me know as we go forward. For literature, this just allows kids who can to dictate their pieces. So that's a very clear one, I think. Due dates, very important. Plan for 2 to 3 weeks between due dates. So suggested for the units is around October 15th. For councils around November 1st. I'm hearing from councils anything from November 1st to about November 10th right now. My due date is hard and fast, December 3rd. If you have to get something to me late, I will need to know about that well before December 3rd. And there's only a few reasons that I will accept late entries at that point. And that is one of the reasons we're having this training, because after December 3rd, when I start looking at stuff, I may have questions for you guys and we'll need to address them very, very quickly, or we're kind of pushing that deadline. And this year, last year, I believe I pushed my deadline probably by a week, and we are not going to be doing that this year. CAPTA's deadline is the main reason for this. January 10th, I have to have everything of mine to them. So that's where we kind of fall back from. My program and CAPTA's are digital only, with a slight exception. I will say, so when your spreadsheets come to me, everything should be digitally there, entered into the form, to the Google form that we use as an entry form now. If your student happens to place Award of Excellence, Award of Merit, Honorable Mention, I may contact you and try to collect that piece from you sometime in mid-December. That's why I put December 16th. But clearly, we're not going to know that until we get there, until we get to about January 10th, as I'm pushing things up. Right around then is when I should be able to let everybody know who's placed at 33rd District. Oh, I should also say, as I look at my own notes, the only physical entries I would need to pick up from people are photography and visual arts awards. This means that anybody who has done a photograph, it will need to be printed by somebody, either the artist themselves or the unit or the council that I'm picking up from. So please keep that in mind. Know the guidelines. Student entry forms must be filled out completely, have a title and an artist statement. I will accept titles that say untitled. I will say that they do need to put something in there. And a lot of times they're just going to put something like accepting imperfection. That's totally fine. Titles can be challenging, especially maybe if you're filling out your form at the last minute. So I don't sweat a lot about the title itself necessarily. The artist statement will need to be between 10 words and 100 words. 100 words is the limit. So you got to be kind of succinct. And this is often easier for the TK and kindergartners. Obviously, they're kind of just telling their parent and they're entering that in. Older kids should definitely be writing their own artist statements. General participation and specific arts categories and accessible arts division guidelines must be followed. Acquaint yourself with your rules. This is what I am going to be watching out for more than anything else this year, because that was sort of the most challenging part when I was working through my entries last year, was things that had incomplete art statements or were entered in the wrong format, right? So each of the categories say what kind of digital format is acceptable. Like in visual arts, they want JPEGs and PNGs. They do not want PDFs. For a lot of reasons. Artwork must be original and created for the purpose of this program and this year's theme. That's not something that always can be verified. You can always verify that as an original piece by that artist, but sometimes you're not going to know if something was created for this theme or not, and that's fine. That's what the artist statement is for. Only one student may create the work and be recognized as the award recipient, but other students may appear in the artwork itself. I'm going to use an example from last year. I was approached by a mom with twins who wanted to choreograph a dance together. And I had to stop her and say, only one of the girls can take credit as choreographer, and only she would win the award. Her sister would only be featured as a dancer and would not thus win the award. She would need to enter herself a different dance or some other creations. So that's kind of where you might see something like that. Or maybe they would like to create a group film, but again, it has to be one student. And last but not least, students may submit entries in more than one art category and more than one entry in a single art category. When I was doing reflections at an elementary school, every year I would get at least 3 photographs from one of the boys in my daughter's grade. Totally fine. He was essentially competing against himself most of the time, which was kind of entertaining to me when I would send things off to the judges to see which of his photos would take top place. So that, again, totally fine. Oop, I gotta scroll. Okay, common reasons for ineligibility. And this is what I kind of discover when I'm working through my spreadsheet. And I really need you guys at both the unit and council to focus on this when you are going through your own processes. The local unit PTA is not in good standing with CAPTA. This means that insurance and member dues paid dates must be on your spreadsheet. These are the very last columns at the end. And these are what you guys fill out for me and for CAPTA. You can get your insurance and member dues paid dates from your treasurer typically. Bylaws approval date, they must be within the last 5 years. So between, say, July 2020, actually, I don't know why I put September since our years always start in July. It could be July 2020 forward. It's possible I've also gotten that slightly wrong and it's 2019, but I will check that on the back end and let you guys know. So what I spent a lot of my time doing last year and what I would like to avoid is having to chase everybody down to get these dates, because I know most of you are in good standing. Without a doubt, you wouldn't be participating for the most part and as involved as you are if you were not in good standing. Your units and your councils really make an effort to make sure that's true. Include this information so I do not have to chase you down. It takes up a lot of time. I am dealing with a lot of councils. Another reason for ineligibility is we find out the submission's been prepared by more than one student. Or, and this did come out last year as well, submission has been prepared by someone other than the student. In the example I'm thinking of, I found out through back channels that a parent was heavily involved with the creation of an artwork in the accessible arts division. And I had to let them know that, yes, it's fine. He's come all the way to me at this point, but that he would not pass up to CAPTA. And that in the future, if you know this to be true, that is completely acceptable within the bounds of your own program at the unit level. Award that student, fuss over them, do whatever you need to do, but do not then pass them up to the council. Okay, so that's very important because once it gets to me, it's a little late and I don't want to rain on anybody's parade that I don't have to. This also happened a fair amount last year. A submission has been entered in the wrong category or the wrong grade division. I saw that way less. Grade division is pretty clear cut. You know if your kid's primary or intermediate or middle school. I think maybe with middle school it can get funny, like if you have a 6th grader who's still at an elementary school, that elementary school is then running both primary, intermediate, and 1 year of middle school in their program. I did see some wrong categories. I saw some photos entered as visual art. I saw a film entered as a dance or vice versa as well. So kind of pay attention to that when you're going through your spreadsheets the first time, because that can be corrected at the unit level pretty quickly. You can just go back to the parent or the student, say, wait a minute, did you just put in the wrong thing, and then switch it. So just watch out for that stuff. Whoop, here we go. Whoop. Reviewing entries. Okay. First off, California State PTA virtual judging training, Thursday, September 26th at 7 p.m. this week. We will get the link out to you if you do not already have that and want to sign up for it. Obviously, if you sign up for it, you'll receive all of the materials on the back end, including Eric's slideshow and video. So I strongly encourage you to register for that and for any of the trainings that kind of come down your way. So reviewing entries, we call it judging. I try to refer to it as much as possible as reviewing. So reviewing the art rather than judging the art. But for the sake of argument, we're going to say blind judging is required. So when you send your pieces on to the judges, they cannot see the name or of the artist. For many reasons. Most likely, especially at a unit, it's very possible they actually know the students. So yeah, so that's a no-no. And there's a lot of information for the virtual form about hiding columns to make sure that the judges can't see that. Also important, chairs cannot be reviewers. So I would never be a reviewer at any of my places, any of my schools. That's just not appropriate. If you guys have questions about finding reviewers, drop them in the chat or ask them at the end. Interpretation of theme, creativity, and technical skill are where they're grading. So you'll see interpretation of theme is 40 points. This is essentially all about the artist statement. And you'll see, note, the interpretation of theme is weighed more heavily than any other criteria. Creativity and technical skill are equal. So I would just say a really well written artist statement or something that's pretty reflective about why they created the art to the theme can really take you very far in this competition. An entry should be judged primarily on how well the student uses their artistic vision to portray the theme rather than their technical skill or creative process. So a very beautiful picture with a weak artist statement will place below maybe a less technically drawn picture or photograph that has an outstanding artist statement. And then next, awards, the fun part. Make sure to celebrate everybody who participates in your program. This is particularly geared toward the units. At the unit level, celebrate everybody. Award of excellence, award of merit, honorable mention, participation. Those were the 4 I would give out when I was working at the elementary school level, which was literally up until last year. And that's really fun. You can do it in a lot of different ways. My school did it at a PTA night in January, typically. How many awards can be given out? That's up to you guys at the unit. However, only the highest scored piece in each category and grade division advances to the next level. So unit goes to council, you send those your 3 tops. So award of excellence, award of merit, and honorable mention up to council. They go through their own judging process to get their top 3, which they pass to me. I will say at the end of the day, I had about 300 total pieces of art that I was sorting through and sending off to judges in the different categories. And then you can imagine it kind of is exponential when it goes to state and then the national level. Gosh, I wanted to say one more thing about awards and it totally slipped my mind. Maybe it'll come up back when we're talking about other stuff. So that's awards. You can make your own awards, but shoppta.com also sells them. There's ribbons, there's medals, there's like paperweights, I guess I would call them, and I think statues. They also have lovely certificates and certificate folders if you want it to be very official. If you have less of a budget, totally fine, go ahead and make your own. So the theme search for 2026-27 is open now. It opened on September 1st. It closes on November 1st. California State PTA is running this theme search. They take their top 5 themes and send those to national, and that's how national comes up with their themes over the years. I don't know what next year's is though. So I don't know what 2025-26 is, but they're getting ready for the next round beyond that. And these are just several of the most recent. I am hopeful because was last year's Accepting Imperfections is now, I think I Will Change the World by was 3 years ago, I think. And then that's the website link at the bottom. All right, and then the last one, thank you for coming, for taking the time out of your Monday night at 7 p.m. to come and be with us. Okay, I am going to actually stop sharing my screen. You guys will be able to have this slideshow as well. And now we can just open the floor to questions. You guys can feel free to unmute, or Marcy and Melanie, if there were questions in the chat, go ahead and ask.
There were a couple questions in the chat. Can a unit president be a judge at the district level?
Can a unit president be at the district level? I don't see why not. I would be cautious, though, to make sure that if they were judging in a category, say literature, that none of their people were actually in that category. So I have a good friend who's a musician, and she's a parent of kids at our elementary school, but her girls never entered in music. So Melissa would always judge music for me. So that's kind of how we get, I don't want to say get around that restriction, because it's not really a restriction, as long as, yeah, if a unit president was judging at district and not in a category where they had people, it would be totally fine.
And the other question was, did you mention that a student submitted a TikTok video?
Ooh, no. They did enter, I think what you're referring to is a kid did create a really, I want to say, a really high level looking digital film. And there were concerns about it from my film judge that it was not wholly created by the student, which brought up a lot of questions in the digital category. Obviously, we're also dealing with some AI questions, and I don't think that's actually very well addressed in the rules. And luckily, it's not something we've gotten too deep into in reflections yet, but it's potentially coming. So if your judges or you see an entry and you have questions about it, feel free to ask me. I can ask Eric and Lisa Snowis, who's my mentor up at CAPTA, their thoughts on it. What I did with that student was I went back and said, okay, you didn't actually tell us what you utilized to create this film, to get more information about it. So if you do get a digital entry, check their artist statement to make sure all of that is addressed.
Okay, another question. So a 6th grade elementary school student needs to be entered as a middle school student?
That's correct.
Perfect.
Right.
Next question. Is there a specific paper for art that they have to use?
Oh, I saw this in email. The answer is no. That is coming up, I think, mostly because there are specific dimensions to the piece of art that can be submitted. I don't remember what it is off my top of my head. That is in the visual arts rules. And I can look that up. No, I don't remember. It's totally eluding me right now. But yeah, that's what you do not have to, they can use anything. I've seen canvas, I have seen printer paper, I have seen collage on cardstock. Yeah, no, any kind of paper is completely acceptable.
That's all in the chat right now, unless y'all want to.
I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
Hello?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
hi, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So my first question is that I'm at Bellflower and I'm on the council.
Okay.
But my kids and I'm still on a board member on the PTA for my school.
Sure.
So if I'm the one judging for council, do I just ask for like obviously I'll have a couple team members hopefully that will help, but do I exclude myself from the ILC one because I'm a board member there and a board member on council?
So you're a board member, but you're also acting as a judge?
No. So when it comes to the ILC, the school, I'm not doing anything. So I'm first VP, but I'm not responsible for reflections. I'm not voting at the ILC level, but I'm on the council, which I'm responsible for voting for, the submission.
Oh, once they come up to you potentially.
Right.
I would avoid being a judge as a chair personally.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because I could easily be asked to be both a lit or a visual arts judge, and I just kind of say no to all of my people, all of my councils. They just know we will find somebody else if they're struggling to find a judge for a category.
Okay.
That's kind of just generally the ethical, moral advice I would give you as far as that goes.
Okay. And you said that you're only taking at 33rd, you're only taking um digital,
Right.
but the schools could submit not digital, but I would be responsible for either taking a photo of the art and then sending it to you, or how does that work?
So I would recommend absolute. So first, let me say, if a unit or a council wants to run a physical program, completely okay. That I think is personal preference a lot of the time. I'll just share that I am sometimes uncomfortable handling their physical art because I don't want to lose it or mess it up.
Right.
I was given a sculpture last year and I was vaguely panicky about it pretty much the entire time it was in my custody. Because it was a little fragile. That said, I tend to put most of the responsibility on a unit, honestly, not on a council chair. So if a unit chose to run a physical program, I would encourage them to sort of concurrently run the digital program as well, so that you, as a council chair, are not having to try to scan a bunch of stuff and make digital files and then enter everything, because you would then have to go piece by piece in the digital entry form and enter
Yeah.
them.
What if I took a photo wrong that they didn't like? You know what I mean? Like a different,
Right. So my general suggestion, my counsel to you would be have your unit chair do that instead of you, because they're always going to be the one that's closer to the art than we are,
Okay.
back a couple of levels.
Okay.
That's what I would suggest.
Okay. I think I,
Then let me, if anything changes or comes up after this, as you guys are working through this, absolutely let me know. I'm hoping in early November for you council chairs, council reflections chairs, that I can create something a little bit more robust on how to compile the data from the units for yourselves at council for then judging it. Because you're gonna get a whole bunch of different spreadsheets. And you're gonna have to pull data out of each one of them to create your own master. And that can be a little intimidating to some people. I've been doing it for several years now, so it's not so scary, but I absolutely understand that that's not the most delightful part of this job for everybody. So
yeah.
anything I can do to make those pieces easier, please let me know.
Thanks. This is my first time, so
Totally gotcha. No worries. I am here. I am happy to handhold if necessary for anybody out there. Does anybody else have other questions?
Here's a couple more from the chat. Um,
Okay.
where can people find all the details on each category? Because someone said we need the size, please. I'm assuming that goes towards the paper, but where do they find the descriptions of what the, I guess the
So
are for each
let
category?
me, I'm going to hide you guys for a second while I go into I've downloaded all the rules. So that is a visual arts question. I can easily tell you the dimensions of the paper, and then I can probably pull this website. Let's see. Sorry, scrolling. Okay. 2D artwork, such as paintings, dimensions must not exceed 24 by 30 inches. Obviously, this is in reference more to a physical piece of art. So if you get a scan, you're not necessarily going to know that a piece is 24 by 30. But once you collect it, so what has to happen, CAPTA has a beautiful showcase at the convention at the end of April this year. They will ask me to collect my top 3 from each category. So I will need to get them photographs, the top 3 photographs and the top 3 visual arts pieces, which is why I had that piece of sculpture in my custody last year. So I do not want somebody then to hand me a canvas or an art piece that is larger than 24 by 30 inches. So that's where that kind of comes in. Encourage them to put that into the details when they're doing their entry forms. There is a place for them to put the dimensions of their pieces. There is surprisingly no dimensional restrictions for 3D artwork. If you get something that is strangely large, please shout out and let me know. It's unlikely to happen since sculpture is very unusual to receive. But yeah, that is your dimensions. And then let me see if I can pull this website and drop it into the chat for you guys. You can keep asking me questions while I do my hunting.
Let me do a few more and then we'll get to Esmeralda. Where do we get the student entry forms?
Oh, student entry forms are just on the CAPTA website. So these are PDFs, and you can print them out and have them available, like say in your front office. You could put a link to it on your website, depending on how you use it. You could also just, if you really would like to, you could put one into each kid's hands via a flyer kind of thing.
Melanie, can you find that and drop it into the chat if possible, please?
And then you can also find, so on the CAPTA website, on the leaders website is where you'll find the link to the digital form as well. What you do with that is you make a copy of it. So we can also make sure that we can include all of the links we're mentioning. I will say that the rules are actually not that easy to find. It took me a few minutes this morning when I was hunting down that website name. Oh, actually, I know where to get it for you guys. I hid it somewhere for myself. Not that. Okay, another question.
How many judges are typically needed?
Oh, that is a good question. I would say I would encourage at minimum, obviously, one judge per category, especially at a unit. I ran a program at a really small unit where we were getting no more than 25 submissions. And that was easy. And sometimes I wouldn't get anything in film or I wouldn't get anything in dance. Dance was actually something I almost never got. So I didn't need judges for that. And then if you get one submission in one category, I would get one submission in music. I don't need a judge for that. But I typically got lit, visual arts, and photography. So I always had one judge for that. I would say, depending on how much you're getting at your councils, certainly at district now, I am looking at bringing in a second judge in all three of those categories, in literature and visual arts and photography specifically, because those are the most impacted categories. And I had a couple of ties last year when it came to scoring. And it's nice to have a second person there. I pulled in a second person in all of my tie categories to kind of sort through that. Actually, and this is, I think, what I meant to mention earlier when it came to judging and stuff like that. You can't have ties. If you get a judge, if your judge returns your stuff to you and you see a tie score, you need to go back to them and ask them to break the tie. Or you need to find a second judge to break the tie for you as well. So those are kind of your options.
Next question. Do I have the dates correct? You want submissions to be to the district level by November 1st.
Oh, council level by November 1st. So councils, you need to be setting your own due dates for units to bring their stuff to you. So say a unit has a due date of October 15th. October 15th comes, they close down accepting submissions. The next day they go to their spreadsheet, they start sorting it, and they get it to the judge sometime in the next week, right? Judges typically need a day, if that. I guess it depends on how many things they're looking at. But at a unit level, most of them need maybe a day, maybe a few days, and then they send it back to you all scored and nice and stuff like that. It's always good to give them at least a week so that there's a weekend in there because they're working a lot of the times. And you just have a quick conversation about when do you think you can get to this and before you send this stuff to them. And then that comes back to say the unit person, and they go through it. They find out who their winners are and start preparing for their awards. But in the meantime, they're also preparing their spreadsheet to send up to you at council. So by, say, November 1st, for most of you, you guys will be receiving your unit spreadsheets from however many units you have. Say, in my home council of Redondo Beach, my council chair, Carrie Chatterjee, will be getting, I believe, if I could count my schools, 11 different spreadsheets from all of our different units that she's then going to have to go through and compile into one master. That can take a little while. So you need to give yourself about a week for that, sort through it, send it off to your judges, maybe another week. It comes back to you, you look through it when it comes back for scoring, and then you sort it again so that you can pull out your top 3 in each category and send it up to me by December 3rd, which is a Tuesday, because I want you to have a weekend and a Monday to work on it if you're crazy busy. If you're crazy busy or having other stuff going on, please holler at me, and we can figure something out.
Okay, next question. Can you please send a link to sign up for Thursday's judging Zoom?
Ooh, yes, we can definitely do that. I think I actually have that hidden away. Let me find our chat so I can drop this link into it first.
Thank you, thank you.
Where's the chat? Oh, there's the chat. I'm not used to having this many people in a Zoom, so. Okay, hang tight. I'm gonna come back with the next one. The CAPTA one, here it is. So this one will be a Zoom registration link for the 26th.
Okay, what's next? So submitting artwork can be scanned to be submitted digitally.
Yes, and that is ideal. So the things that you would scan are visual arts and photography. Typically, a lot of times your photo's already in a beautiful digital file and you can just send that merrily off without having to manipulate it. Visual arts is sort of the tricky one. I will get PDFs sometimes, which, while it's an accurate representation of a child's work, is not the most easy file format to work with, or to print, quite honestly. So that can be kind of tricky sometimes. So typically a visual art, and this really should be the artist's parent or guardian or whoever is in charge of them scanning that piece of art. Obviously, the older kids know how to do this, and there's many apps that you can scan with. Notes on iPhones, there's Adobe Scan, there's Google Scan. These are the best ways to get the art done. Taking just a photograph of it with your phone is not fantastic, I would say. You can absolutely do it, and I get that all the time. But it's definitely not a perfect form. I'd rather get a nice high quality scan of something than a photo of something.
Next question. Where would I access the Google Forms for submission?
So leaders let me go back to this website. And then maybe I can pull the link for you guys out of it. So this is the leaders website. It's very simple. All you have to do is create a login, and then you can get to the resources, which is where the spreadsheet lives. Let me see if I can pull up the link to the form easily. Make a copy of your form. Yes. Oops. Let me make a better, let me actually make a copy of the link instead of opening the whole thing. Copy link address. I'm going to drop that here for you guys. So what you do, if you open this, it's going to say make a copy. Make a copy. Because you don't want to be messing about in the original. You're going to end up making many copies of this form for judges and stuff like that. All right, what else do you guys need?
Okay, I don't understand this question, so I may need a little bit of clarification, Priscilla.
Okay.
What about kids that like to make things such as blind bags? Do they submit the blind bag or a video of them creating their blind bags?
I also don't understand that question because I don't know what a blind bag is, but it sounds very interesting.
So, have you ever heard of like those miniature toys and they
Yeah.
come in little bags so they don't know exactly what they're getting
Yes.
inside? So, some students now like to create blind bags, but all they're creating is it's pretty much cotton inside paper that they drew like a potato chip bag, but they're drawing it out of paper and then they glue it together and stuffing that paper, which is their drawing, stuffing it with like cotton.
Oh, interesting. So it's a sort of a pseudo blind bag. It's like an artistic version of that.
Yes, but there's nothing like there's
There's
no
nothing.
surprise toy inside. It's just
Okay, got it.
like a squishy, pretty much a
Got
squishy
it.
paper.
Got it. I would consider that. I mean, you could take a photograph or scan that artistic creation, quite honestly, and enter it as a visual art. It would obviously not be a photo for many reasons. You could potentially enter it even as a 3D form, if it's not flat, two-dimensional, like if they've actually made it bag-like. I think that would be totally acceptable. It could also make a really interesting film, the process of somebody creating something like that. I think
Okay.
the sky is kind of the limit as far as that goes. I
Oh,
actually now actually I just remembered I got another question by email right before we started. And the question was, can a child I think they meant, can a child submit a drawing of the Mona Lisa was essentially the question. The answer to that is yes. If your child is trying to imitate a piece of fine art like the Mona Lisa, and I think this was a question about copyright more than it was about anything else. It's not plagiarism because they're obviously not going to be creating a perfect reproduction replica of the Mona Lisa. And it's not a copyrighted piece. The Mona Lisa was created in the 16th century, the 15th century. Copyright did not exist. So the answer to something like that is absolutely. I think where you might get sticky is trying to draw a Coke can or something. You know, you would want to be more Andy Warhol-esque as far as like creating something pop culture-y as far as that goes.
Okay, here's another. Ju Yoon, do you have a couple of questions? I see that you had a couple of questions.
Yeah, it's Jew. Hi. So
Hi.
I do have a couple of questions. First of all, I was the chair last year at my elementary school, and now I'm at the chair at my junior high.
Okay.
And we're trying to figure out. Last year we did paper entries for everything, and then we
Okay.
submitted just the first place winners to council, and then we
Right.
were able to just do the digital forms for those winners that moved on. Is that okay to do for regular entries? Just take the paper and then just submit the digital forms for the winners.
You mean to like scan those paper forms or
Yeah.
to actually enter them? So if your council is willing to accept that, yes. I would not. I would need you to then take all of those paper forms and convert them into the Google form documents. So you would need to go person by person.
For all the entries or just the ones that move on to the next level?
All the ones that are moving on to the next level. So at a unit, like any of the units, high school, middle school, or unit, that could actually be a fairly simple and quick process. And actually, I should amend that. You don't necessarily need to go through the Google form. The Google form then so the Google form is the front end student entry form for a virtual program. On the back end, all the data is created in a Google Sheet. So that's where all your data lives. And that's what, so you could use a blank Google form to make yourself a spreadsheet essentially, and then fill the
Okay.
spreadsheet in itself with your data as a
Okay.
slightly
And then
faster workaround. But yeah, the PDF scans are not going to work as that goes further up the train of further up the chain, excuse me, of reflections people.
okay. And then also to clarify, at the unit level,
Yeah.
We only send the first place winners from each category and each division to the council. And then
Exactly.
at council, we take the top 3 and send them on to district for each category. Did you say you wanted 3 submissions for each one?
My brain is slow tonight. I apologize. So yes, definitely your award of excellence is what you send up to council from each of the units. So per grade division, right? So if we're talking
Yeah.
about an elementary school, you've got primary and intermediate.
Yes.
Middle
Yes.
school, you're just middle school, right? So you've
Yes.
got your kiddos and you're sending one lit, you're sending one, you know,
One from each category. Yeah.
Exactly.
The first
Thank
one from
you.
each category. Now, then at a council, because I'm also the chair. I'm chair at the unit level, but I'm also helping out. I'm on the committee at our council level also. So I'm just trying to figure out what I need to do for each part of it.
Great. No, that makes total sense. And I will actually clarify this on the back end because this is actually where I consistently get confused. Always send up award of excellence to the next level. Because then from their kind of compilation of those things, then but everybody's awarding those 3 levels, right? So your unit award of excellence goes to council. Council's award of excellence goes to district. So I'm only seeing the council's award of excellence people. And then from that, I'm sending my award of excellence up to CAPTA. However, we're all doing awards at different levels, right? So we're not just awarding our award of excellence, we're awarding our 2nd and 3rd place people as well.
I think what Jessica's saying is please send us up your top winner of each category goes to the next winner. The second and, for lack of a better word, the 2nd and 3rd places, please award them at your level, but we don't need them to.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify.
Yep.
Okay, because I thought I heard we were supposed to send 3, so I was confused about that.
Yep, nope, just the top ones.
That makes sense. Yes.
Just the top ones.
Sorry about that.
And then one more question regarding the judging. I know you guys keep saying for the judging to get like at least 6 judges, one for each category, and have them judge that category. What we've always done in the past is I've always had 5 judges and had them judge all the artworks that we got. Is that not correct? Are they supposed to be divided into each category?
So what you should be doing, and I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong, and if that's what works for you, that's totally fine. The general criteria for judging is that you're looking for people with expertise in each of those areas. So what I happen to know a film critic. She's my film judge. She only looks at my films. Because that is where her expertise lies. She happens to have a degree in it. For visual arts, I only ask people with expertise in the arts field. So I actually ask our one of the chairs of our volunteer arts education program in Redondo Beach to be my chair for that. So the guidelines, if you happen to read the National PTA, or I think it actually is housed on the CAPTA site for judging, they're always looking for people with expertise in specific fields, in those 6 specific fields.
I think the reason we did it the other way was at elementary, we weren't getting all the categories. So we were getting primarily mostly visual arts. We had 1 film, 1 dance, and then nothing else. And so we just had the judges just so we can get an array of scores. And then they were able to judge all the artwork that we had come in, and just they were separated into categories. We had primary one side, intermediate other, and then all the different medias were in different locations, but we just had the judges go through all of the pieces that we got.
I mean, and typically that's not something like you don't report on your judges to the next level of people, right? So that's not stuff we like. I'm not vetting your judges backwards, right?
Right.
So I think, and that's true at a unit. Like you might get 1 in film, and then you actually don't even need to have that judge. That just goes automatically upwards. But yeah, you get a lot of visual arts, and you might want to have a couple of eyes on that, just as you said, to get a variety of scores. I don't think that's unacceptable.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay. We're working on trying to find that link for the virtual judging on the 26th. Is that when it is?
Did it not go in there?
No, none of your stuff is coming up in chat, Jessica.
It's not. Oh, it's all going to Nora. Nora, you're very popular. I just noticed that it's all direct messaging. Okay, let me change this to everyone. And I'm going to drop a bunch of links. All right, guys, hang on just a minute. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see. I think, okay, that looks like 33rd district. I'm like, okay, where's me? Okay, so this should take you. This first link should be to the rules. If it's not, I apologize. Let's see. Okay, this is the registration link for Thursday, if I'm getting the 26th day right. Okay, this is the leaders website link to the reflections resources, where you'll find Eric's recordings and Eric's slideshows. And again, actually the link to the registration for his training on the 26th. And then I think there was one more I wanted to drop in here. And now I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is. Okay, this last one is the link to make a copy of the digital entry form. Do you guys see those?
Yes.
Hallelujah. Sorry.
No worries. I was like, wait.
You'd
Okay,
think I would know what I was doing with Zoom by now, but I definitely still don't.
it says, next thing says, the student certificate link does not appear to be working on the CAPTA website. Yeah.
To the student entry form?
This was Cindy who, if you want to give us any clarification.
Yes, I was trying to download just to kind of take a look and get prepared, and it doesn't link anything or open anything. You can click everything else, but you can't click the student certificate if I go to the CAPTA website.
To the certificate or the entry form? Let me just make sure we're talking.
The student certificate, because I was just trying to look through everything. So I know
So
I have.
that might be not up yet, because the student certificate is what you'll use as a template for the awards at the end.
Okay,
so
perfect.
I think that might be vacant.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem.
Here's one more. I thought there was a slide that councils were to send up the top 3. Can that be checked before sending out? Maybe I saw it incorrectly.
So the top 3 refers to when I'm collecting art for display. So at that point, I will ask for mine, and this might not all come from one council, right? I'll ask my award of excellence person for that piece of art, in visual arts or photography, and the same for award of merit and honorable mention. So I won't necessarily be hitting up all of you at that point. I don't have I would give you examples from last year, but I don't have them in front of me. But that I think is where the confusion comes from, is that you're passing up each first place winner. So your award of excellence typically is what we call them, up the chain of reflections reviewing. But when we're collecting art to showcase and do awards nights, we are actually showcasing at council and district and up the top 3, basically.
So yes, you're gonna submit up your awards of excellence, right, to our district level.
Right.
The district will then appoint out of those excellent awards of excellence that you guys have remitted up to us, 3, 1, 2, and 3, same thing. Award of excellence. What's the second place one called, Jessica? I'm sorry.
Only going. I saw what you were saying about that.
And those 3, we will ask for the artwork so that we can display it at our Reflections Awards celebration. So so it would be our 3, the district's top 3 from the awards of excellence that all the councils submitted up.
Right.
I missed a question.
I could also.
Go ahead.
March 1st, this 33rd district Reflections Awards.
I missed a question. It says on this website there are 2 different student entry forms, and it gives it's a CAPTA resource participation form. It says we use the one that was listed under 24-25 participation forms in the student packet. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I'm sure that's absolutely the most recent one and the one you should definitely be using.
It says here.
I wonder if the link to the form is broken. Okay,
we're trying to get to the Zoom registration link for the Zoom.
Sorry.
and it's the Zoom virtual judging, and everyone says it's not working.
It is not. I'm getting the same
Are
error.
you also?
Yeah, none of the links are working. The reflections one for training's not working, and the other one, it says make a copy of document.
Let me go back. I'm going to go into Eric's last email and see if I can pull a better link.
Is there any way to get all of these links and information on an email so we have everything in one place?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I will be putting that together in the morning.
Yes, please. I asked. I think they skipped my question.
Uh-oh. We don't want to skip anybody's question. Go
No
ahead.
worries. Thank you though.
Let's see. Yeah, no, I'm not seeing it. I will ask Capta. Because yeah, I'm not seeing it either in any of my stuff. That's weird. Okay.
We will
I will
reply
get-
back to you with an email, getting you all the links that work.
So what I typically do is I will email the council chairs and then they push down to the units. Hopefully that works this time. We do have all of your registration information, so I can probably pull everybody's emails that way and send all the links and stuff to you after I've completely re-verified them. Oh, okay. Monica, I see your question. Missing file upload folders. When you get that question, you say restore. What that does, just to clarify, this is like getting deep into the spreadsheet. So you've got your front-facing Google form that a student or a parent fills out, and it fills in the Google sheet with the data that you then see. What then happens is that all of the digital submissions are living in that spreadsheet, but they're also living in folders in your Google Drive. So there's a form, then there's a Google sheet, and then there's 7 folders. There are 7 folders because in music composition, many of the students are required not just to submit a recording, but to submit musical notation or some sort of analysis of their music. So that's why there are 7 folders. So that's why you get that message. All right. Anybody else? I should mention October 1st, I will be involved in the Q&A that 33rd District is doing. So you can pop in and I believe there's breakout rooms. So we'll have a reflections breakout room for any of you all to come back and see me and ask questions, more questions as we get a little bit deeper into the program and you maybe start getting submissions. Yes. Parent signature on a digital form, just type in. That's fine. Is Eric's Zoom basically the same as last year's? Probably. They tend to be very consistent. And I don't think there were any changes to the judging requirements. And he did also go over all of the division change and some of the, I don't want to say rule changes, but rule clarifications. Anybody else? If not, it's on, oh, it's 8:03, holy moly. You guys know where to find me. Please do not hesitate to email me. I am checking it daily, except on weekends typically, and sometimes even on weekends, especially as we get deeper into the program. I try to reply within 24 hours unless something is going crazy in my household, which you never know, right? But yeah, definitely. If you're a unit, try to ask your council person first, your council chair. And then they will reach out to me quite frequently. But you know, if you're having a hard time getting a response or something's really not clear, feel free to reach out. All right, everybody. I look forward to seeing some of you again on October 1st if you have additional questions. And again, I should have said this early, we'll be celebrating 33rd District Reflections on March 1st, and more details will come out on that soon. Good night, everybody.